very well-funded water districts, and we had to be really clear, that's you. We're over here with no water districts. I mean, you have Paradise, but otherwise, you're kind of like the rest of us. There's just these people all trying to make it all work and, you know, passing the hat, and, you know, somebody retires or gets sick, the whole thing doesn't get any care, and, you know, that's reality, and that's why we've got that piece in there to hook up with the Southern Sierra, Inyamono and all that country out there. That's a lot more like a lot of us, and the West Slope, you know, in Butte, and you have a whole different region that's in another region that's a lot more like that region. So we've come a long ways, and we hope you know, think that we're doing a good job. But if there's something that really comes out, you know, we don't have much time to fix it, or we will be the last horse out of the gate, and it's a matter of pride at this point.
So,
to beat the San Joaquin.
So what I hear is that
Vicky's been was at the last meeting, so. You know,
Oh, she's a bulldog, so.
Yeah,
She'll keep me in shape.
She might be able to bring you up to speed on some of this if you hadn't had the chance. Before she leaves, I understand she said.
She is retiring.
For Fort Collins,
Wow.
Colorado.
so if I'm hearing right, the draft we have is pretty much what's going to go forward, other than
Moving things around and
so
changing.
probably in the interest of time, if people have an interest and a desire to critique this, they could critique this draft, and then let you guys know immediately if there's something that they're just seeing that, like, we can't move this.
Right, and you know, call us, you know, or something,
Right.
so we can talk to you and to try and
Yeah, 'cause I
understand.
think if we
Because we're gonna
wait
have to
for-
get back to everybody else and go, excuse me, wait,
Yeah.
oh,
If we wait for the final draft to get released, we're out of
it's,
time.
then we are last.
So anybody that wants to take on that, there it is.
Is there a letter of support for the applicant? I see it on the agenda.
We did the letter of support, yes, and it is in the packet.
It's already been signed.
It's been decided.
I just want to be clear on that.
It's
The only
on
one
page
missing
15.
is Southern Sierra, so all the IRWMs.
All the other ones,
Yeah.
because
just
they
one.
wanted, believe it or not, they wanted each IRWM region, the 9 of us, to put in a letter of support of unity to move this thing forward. Again, you know, the miracle of getting 9 IRWMs together. And we played around with this for how long? About a year and a half. I think our first meeting was in Auburn, been to 2 meetings in Sacramento. And it kind of amazed me that 9 different IRWMs could agree on anything without killing each other. And the last meeting was pretty brutal in terms of some of the things that were said, but there was unity in the meeting and people were happy about where it was going.
Well, the very statement you just made tells me why they wanted those letters from all of that.
Yeah,
Because it was kind of
absolutely.
like, prove to us that you really are together on this, because we don't believe you can do it.
Well, and initially when the grant came out, who's that group?
Mountain Counties.
Mountain Crown Counties
Water
came out and
Resources.
said, we're gonna do it, and they didn't even talk to anybody else.
I remember those days
And
well.
that didn't go very far.
That was not,
That
that was not a good approach.
No, it wasn't a good approach, and it was the need for unity and the support of those letters, I think, that killed them, took them out of it.
Okay, so, anything else on item 2? We've kind of gotten in a little bit through this discussion to item 3.
I think we've covered all of the items.
Yes.
But we'll run through.
We'll run through them, and if there's something else. So item 3 is regional coordination updates. Summaries and discussion of various IRWM coordination efforts and updates, informational. A is roundtable with regions, and B is the DWR update. So anything we haven't already killed with that one?
I just wanted to say that I participated in the May 30th roundtable regions meeting, and I believe Randy called in for part of it as well. And their notes are in here. There's also a PowerPoint that starts on page 71 that they kind of went through. And I think just one of the things that we haven't covered is the DWR is looking at changing their grant process a little bit so that there's more coordination between the applicant and DWR. So right now, an application is submitted by an Irwin region, and DWR either accepts it or they don't. And they're trying to look at ways to maybe get some time for feedback. So DWR can ask some questions, and also that DWR can go through the application and say, well, maybe not this application, this project, but these other projects might be suitable, whereas now it's either all or nothing. So they're looking at doing that, and they implement that in the upcoming solicitations.
That would be nice, not to throw out some really good things.
You forget to check the box.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yeah. So I think that's pretty much all. And I guess for schedule, the round one draft proposal solicitation package will be out in the fall. They're expecting it to be. And then applications due in the spring, and then round two would not be until 2020, which would actually coincide with the staff involvement effort. The other thing that they talked about at the Roundtable of Regions is whether it would be appropriate to bring Sigma under, or to coordinate IRWIM and Sigma, kind of make those a joint thing instead of two separate processes that are very similar.
I got the hair up on the back of my neck.
So it was just kind of discussed in very general terms about whether that should be, brought up to DWR in the future.
How was, in the general terms, how was it handled or accepted?
There was no outcry against it. Some people said, oh, that makes sense. Most of them were urban people. I don't know how many Sigma people were in the room. The Roundtable of Regions is a volunteer group of all the IRWMs. So it's not very, it's not very structured. And then it is coordinated by Lynn Rodriguez, who is the Ventura IRWM coordinator. So that's in your packet. They also put together a letter to the state, and that is, at our last meeting, we provided a copy of DWR's strategy, what's it called, recommendations for sustaining and strengthening IRWIM. So the Roundtable of Regions got together and put a letter to the state saying they support that, and they would like to work with the state on moving that forward. As part of that is the baseline funding for the IRWIM regions. And then the last thing on this item is that DWR prints out an update, and that's included in here, and that includes, I can send this, well, I think actually on the website it has the links to this. And that's all I have, unless there's some questions on that item.
Any questions on any of those items? Okay, moving on, item 4, draft support letter to the state for the IRWM program funding.
So at our last meeting, staff was directed to draft a letter of support for basically obtaining the baseline funding, or starting that process. And so I drafted one, and that is in your packet. There are components of it that mirror the letter from the Roundtable of Regions, and then it's part of it specific to the Upper Feather River. So request today would be any feedback on this, or if approved, we can sign it and then get that sent off. The other thing is if there's anyone else on this list of CCs or that we should add, to please let me know, and we'll do that too.
What page is that on?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's on, the letter's on 104. So we have it to Assemblyman Brian Lowry, Senator Ted Gaines, to the chair of the Board of Supervisors for the 320s. And then we have it to Secretary Laird, Acting Director Croyle of Department of Water Resources, and the Chief of the Division of Integrated Water Management.
I think that about covers everybody.
Sure.
Yes.
Two possible suggestions. Since it sounds like Plumas County's general fund has been paying for UMA's services, I don't know if it should be stated that currently it's being funded out of general fund. And I think the statement is fair. General fund money might not be there next year or the future,
Very fair statement.
especially when the state's always giving us unfunded mandates. And then the last thing, I think maybe a question is, what is DWR, what efforts are they undertaking to fund administrative services for the IRWMs? And maybe ask a question that they have to respond to, because I don't really see a question in this letter at the end to force them to respond to us. And so maybe that would be the question that I would suggest.
Good suggestions.
Can you figure out how to add that in?
Okay, Russell?
That sounds good. I think those are good.
That's very good comments, thank you.
Deb, any comments? Roger? The poor unvoting member who has to sit through this.
The big pockets of the U.S. Forest Service.
It's fascinating. I mean, we're applying for and getting Prop 1 grants too, to work on Forest Service land through the Fire State Council and other entities, and we're looking to find ways of expanding that, because the Fire State Council can't take on the management of every grant that we could potentially put in if it's not near term. You know, that's a capacity issue too. So even when we're talking about other entities who have the ability to apply for grants for forest thinning that dovetails well with private land management, for example. Since federal entities can't apply for Prop 1 grants, you know, we need a partner. You know, we need partners, and the organizational capacities within the communities to be able to handle that is an issue for us, as well as for, you know, and us trying to get that all lands work done, in addition to the, you know, the issues within the communities around water supply and sewage and all those kinds of things.
That's very interesting, because I've not looked at it from that point of view, but you guys do need to partner. And if we don't have partners that have capacity.
Right. And right now,
We're all
we've
good.
got these 2 grants through the Fire Safe Council. We're 2 for 2. We've applied for 2 grants and gotten 2 grants to do forest thinning that was already NEPA ready. But there was service contract work, which, you know, I think most folks are aware, we don't have the budget for all the small material, especially without biomass facilities, to make a product out of it. So, but now we're at the point where, okay, we're 2 for 2. We've gotten these grants, and it's being administered through the Fire State Council through Plumas Corps, but they've got a very small staff, and so we're kind of like, well, we're poised now. The proposals are open for this next round of Prop 1 through the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. Is, well, we could apply for more grants, but should we try to have more of a pipeline where we get the projects that we've already got off the ground and running and awarded, and then before we apply for more grants, or because we don't want to risk a point where we get money and then don't have the
Yeah, if you get
abilities
all that.
to administer it properly, like some of the things that you were talking about.
Yeah, that's not good if you have to give money back.
So Fire Safe Council's great, and maybe, you know, and I know Butte does a lot of, Butte County Fire Safe Council does a lot of really good work in that one along those lines too. I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
Grants also open on the state.
Yeah, and they're applied in our irrigation district. And I think, if I may, Chair,
Sure.
I think that's interesting. You know, the Sierra Nevada Conservancy seems to get money for administration, but the IRWMs, it blows my mind that.
I was thinking the same exact thing.
And so that's kind of unique, and you know, they moved from 84 to Prop 1 as well, and their funding is basically running out. And so they're actively seeking how to get their next funding. And so I don't know what their involvement, because they have that watershed improvement program, which is probably more fuels reduction efforts. But it is a crossover into IRWM. And so it'd be interesting maybe to invite the Sierra Nevada Conservancy and see how we can partner on the lobbying, because I think that's their strength, is lobbying for their future funding. And maybe if we can be included,
That's
tag
really-
along.
That's really a good idea. I see Uma's making notes of it.
Yeah. I know, we just finished at the Prop 50 grant, thank God. There was, what, $2 million in road improvements for the force in that grant. So we've kind of played that role through the Prop 50 through helping fund those road improvements. So we've partnered up before, but it's difficult for us capacity to partner up again in our current status.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the questions we're always asking is not only to capacity in terms of money, but where do the skill sets lie that can do that? Because you're not just, it doesn't do any good to get the money if you don't have the skills in there to, and you know, some experience with administering, not only getting grants, but administering them and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we've talked about this on the plumas, where it would be really helpful to have be able to build a capacity in other organizations, be it the Feather River Land Trust or Plumas Audubon or, you know, recreational group. I mean, any number of groups that exist and have the interest, but they don't necessarily, you know, they might have a staff of two, right? So,
Whereas, like Russell said, our RCDs would be
That's a good
ideal
example.
partners for a lot of these things, but basically, none of them that I know of really have any strong capacity or funding or staffing or anything.
yeah.
And as you just said, nothing would be worse than getting a grant, spending the money, doing the work, and then having a grant exception when you're trying to close it out and having to figure out, okay, how do we give
Yeah. And it's a little
the
bit
money back
complicated.
because we didn't do what we said.
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated. Sierra Nevada Conservancy is very helpful in kind of holding our hand and bringing us along, but you need land tenure agreements, you need to be able to ensure that you provide them access, you need MOU, you need some sort of contracting mechanism, you need some sort of collection agreement, because a small organization can't afford to put money up front and then get reimbursed. They have to have some sort of mechanism to, you know, get some startups, some seed money or some startup. So it's complicated.
It really
But
is.
if there was a way to, it seems like the RCDs are a good structure to do that in, so maybe it's not so matter of creating something new, but what could we do to, and help the capacity of the RCDs?
Of the existing
Yeah, to help them bring on
entities that we have.
a grant specialist, or for a period of time to help, you know, build up the in-house capacity to do this work. 'Cause they seem like they'd be in a real good position to do some of that, except for that capacity issue.
Hence the DAC
Right.
involvement, capacity building. It might be a
It's
bit.
that's probably, if we never get another project completed, if we build capacity so other people can get their projects completed, that'll be a success by itself.
having just-
Sherry, I'm wondering whether Community Development Commission might fit into that in some way.
I think there's probably a role there, I really do. I mean, as long as it doesn't involve a block grant.
Exactly. Exactly.
Roger and I, you can probably tell Roger and I have to think about block grants.
You have capacity in terms of grant writing and administration.
Well, within certain limits. We have the capacity to administer grants. There's got to be admin money though, because my board won't let me do anything without admin money.
And wise they should, just having experienced a grant with no admin money initially in it for the administration of the grant. And under Prop 50, believe me, it's nightmare detailed.
Yeah, yeah.
Getting those final invoices through, just about.
Like I say, if government meetings were allowed to drink out of bottles, champagne by the carload to celebrate closing out Prop 50 successfully, man.
DWR sent us an email with balloons and they finally agreed
That
to the
was
closeout.
That was a trip.
But, you know, what I think we're trying to accomplish here is really a function of good government. And the reason why we have an RCD, because an RCD in a certain area is supposed to look after for their resources in their area of influence. The same thing with the counties and the same thing. So if we can have a system, and I think that we've gone a long way to develop a system that we have in place with our management group that basically takes into consideration the different groups, that allows people an opportunity to speak up in a group setting, then therefore I think the RCD, I can't speak for all the RCDs, but I mean I think the RCD would say, hey, we just as soon have somebody else as long as we're heard and our concerns or our projects are being equally looked at, that's all. I mean, I think that's what everybody wants, representation and hopefully some kind of results. And if we can demonstrate, which I think we've tried real hard in this process, to say that we really have been inclusive of everybody, then I think that a central spot would make a whole lot of sense to me, instead of having everybody had capacity building, because I mean, from my experience, that even if we had capacity building, you're talking about a volunteer group and going, well, yeah, okay, this is really nice, but do we really want to do this? And so I think that we're on the right track of centralizing in a region and having that central organization represent. And if we do a bad job representing, then we're going to lose our players. Our members are going to say, the hell of those guys, we're just going to do it ourselves because you're not representing us. Our little group over here and this little service district over here, we're not being heard. We don't have a good voice. Unfortunately, the game's played. We're not being heard because you don't give us any money. And you say, no, we can hear you. We just can't give you any money. So, I mean, I understand those two are supervisors. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, very.
So.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so we have the draft letter of support with some additions as Supervisor Teeter suggested. Leah?
I just wanted to flag that, Kings Beach and the end of, what is it, the end of July?
July 24th.
He's in a bad place to be anyway, but that's when all the real rural Sierra groups are gonna get together, because it's really hard to be heard over the water districts, in the Yuba and some of those areas that are, Nevada County and some of those places are pretty set up to take on these things and support all these little projects. And a lot of us don't have that structure. So that's gonna be a big focus. And as we get closer, if there's ideas that you want us to feed into that process, we'll be happy to carry them forward and see if we can get a Sierra-wide, push on some of these things. Because we aren't the only ones saying, look, we're just too little to compete. We can't seem to get there from here. And we don't have the structure that we need to play this game. And I know the Inyo Mono area and Bishop and all that country down there has exactly the same problems. West side of Butte, I mean, there's places all over this whole system that just can't get there from here. And they're gonna be meeting in Kings Beach, which is the only kind of low-income area in town, so it's very appropriate. But it's right on the lake, it's gorgeous over there. And it's not that far for us, So anyway, any ideas, I think we'll have a chance to bring back what the whole rest of the region is thinking anyway.
Well, and
So-
we've heard all of our concerns through this discussion. But Russell just got my fuzzy brain thinking about the fact that you're right, that most all these organizations are all volunteer. And even if we build capacity, if it's harvest time, or if it's fair time, or if it's bad weather or good weather or whatever, volunteers have a way of not showing up unless they just want to. So it would be tough to try to build capacity in some of these organizations unless they had financial capacity to hire paid staff, and I don't see that happening. But what triggered is, I wonder if an organization like yours, Roger, if there could be a way to fund, say, a pool of grant writers, and the organization to do the grant management if they're successful in obtaining the grant. I'm thinking that might be a more doable thing going into the future, where then any organization that had a grant opportunity and didn't have the capacity to do it could go and approach that organization for the assistance that they needed and to umbrella, basically umbrella